Hello, my friends, and I hope you're having a fantastic day. Today, we are going to revisit Second Wind once again. Frost of Rivia, the fellow who just recently left Second Wind, has posted, we'll call it an update. This is some information that he wants people to have before he goes through his full thing. And there's a whole long list here, but for those who perhaps aren't interested in the whole document, I'll go ahead and do the too long didn't read. This is an update on recent events. More people have come forward since his resignation. He doesn't want to rush it, and the Second Wind leads are not being transparent. Now, there is also a clip that comes with this. So we are going to start with reading everything, since apparently, that's the operation in which we're supposed to do this. We read everything, then we watch the clip. It begins, small update. My intentions and actions are no different than what Nick Calandra and I worked on prior to my resignation. Finding facts, informing people, and rooting out bad actors in the industry. These notes should be read before watching the clip provided at the bottom. On August 3rd, Nick Calandra and I were in a video call. The meeting was to come to a resolution and was put together and moderated by a mutually trusted Second Wind member I will refer to as moderator, to maintain their anonymity for now. The goal was to reach some sort of resolution, which is repeating himself. Both of them were aware I was recording. We ran short on time and agreed to continue at a later date. I fact-checked Nick in the interim and found lies throughout. It was a waste of time if Nick refused to be 100% honest with the moderator and me. When I brought this up to moderator, I was told Nick had already backed out of finishing the meet. The video I am making is to explain each and every word of my resignation, provide a timeline, and supporting evidence. Since my resignation, the project has grown considerably. Nick's old co-workers from various outlets over the past 6 years reached out to me with grievances that echoed the ones in my resignation. I've been working non-stop to make sure every allegation is legitimate. Now, I believe Nick Calandra should be removed from Second Wind, as well as the video game industry at large. He's shown a consistent pattern of behavior and goes against everything we were supposed to stand for: consumers, developers, games media, and workers. While the problems in Second Wind run deep, it seems it never stood a chance so long as it continued to give this man the benefit of the doubt. That is backed up by my own experience and evidence, as well as those of Nick's former co-workers and bosses, some of which Nick accidentally revealed during the call. More continues to appear, and finishing the video will take as long as it needs to be made. My estimate was to have it by at least this Thursday, but that stands to be seen. I am still at work, but I have to slow down a little to see it through. The purpose of this is, once again, to remain transparent where necessary and keep the community informed. It was not my intention, nor did I anticipate taking this long. Moderator is aware that I believe the systemic issue in Second Wind runs too deep for them to be fixed unless moderator steps up and takes charge of the situation for everyone's sake. I still believe the group can be fixed, but not with those systems and not with Nick Calandra. Moderator is also aware I will not return to Second Wind, but I would create new systems, lay out a content strategy, and continue as a co-chair in streams if the team desired. I hold no ill will towards the rest of them. I'd also like this to be a wellness check from me and a thank you to those of you reaching out with support. Despite it all, I am in good spirits, just a little sleep deprived. I know all of this appeared to be heated and irrational, but it's a decision I took with a clear head and plenty of deliberation. Those who are asking for a way to support me financially, I appreciate you, and will think on it once I come to terms with what I want to do after this is said and done. The video is my top priority at the moment. I'd also like to extend an invitation for Second Wind leads to be transparent. From the internal sources, I know they are waiting for my video to release first so they can figure out how to respond. They don't have to wait to take action. But personally, I would take any message with a grain of salt unless it comes directly from moderator or is backed by moderator. You can tell here he was going to tell us initially who this moderator is. Obviously, it must be someone high up in the company. I believe I saw someone conjecturing that it could be Yahtzee. But at this point, it seems that Frost wants to give them a chance to come forward on their own. But back into it. For the time being, I have attached a clip of Nick Calandra saying he does not think the self-appointed HR is fit for the role and that Second Wind is clashing internally. This is proof of the moderated call. I believe it also speaks to my own credibility and brings into question what's been presented as public statements from Second Wind. In my experience, the HR has a habit of speaking from an ideological perspective rather than reality. So while I don't think they're malicious, I do think they're part of the reason things couldn't be fixed, and tried to make it known to the team well before I left. But if they won't be transparent, I'd at least ask the Second Wind leads to stop misrepresenting the group, whether intentional or unintentional. At times, an individual can't speak out in games media due to public perception, career, or even financial needs. Not being honest with messaging takes away the group's individual silence. I don't want them to speak for or against me if they don't feel the need to, and I have told the ones I'm still in contact with that I respect their choice. As for the questions of my professionalism, I don't make moves lightly. Every word in my resignation and in this statement is carefully placed and peer-reviewed. Even though it seems like it, I am not alone. I don't believe speaking out against wrongs is lacking in professionalism. I believe that notion is what makes it harder for people to speak out. I feel my actions filter out the kind of people and business opportunities that I don't want to be associated with. It also attracts the kind of people in business that I can trust. No matter what happens after this, I wish to remain independent, as that's the only way I feel I can continue to try and do right by consumers, developers, workers, and creatives. We did not rise from the ashes. We rose from the goodwill of the people propping us up to be the change the industry needed. Examples of misrepresented messaging. As presented, the team did not agree to fire the head of sales, nor did they choose to keep Nick. 6 of 13 owners voted to keep Nick, 4 of which were leads, 2 were undecided, 1 voted to kick, 4 were missing, including Nick. In contrast, 5 leads fired the head of sales out of the blue, yet no meeting was called. In our final meeting, I reiterated for the last time that the systems were no good. If head of sales was worth firing, then so was Nick. If Nick was worth keeping, then so was head of sales. Or, if only one needed to go, then both still deserved a better and equal process. On top of that, all of the focus is being put on Nick's social media usage when that isn't really what this is about. It is Frost versus Nick and the systems that caused Second Wind to crack that he's exploited for the past 6 years, the very systems that we were working to shine a light on in the industry. Proof of moderated video call recorded on August 3rd, censored voice and identity of moderator, and mention of Second Wind members that aren't the current HR. With respect to moderator, they wanted to express that they wanted to go on record that they didn't think recording conversations was conducive to reaching an understanding or resolution, and also stated, "I'll just add, I would hope that this isn't recorded, that everyone is showing up here with the sentiment of coming to bringing this matter to a close, right? Again, you might disagree with that sentiment. You might choose to do that on your own side. I'll just put that at the start." Nick responded, "I'm not recording if you're not." I responded, "I am, for full disclosure, for the sake of transparency. As much as it is for me, it's for y'all. It's for the team. None of this he said, she said." And that is how it went down. If you read everything else, you may want to now look at the link. And we will do just that. Please read everything else I wrote first. I'd like you to have all the context. The 3 of us did not feel confident in HR's ability to fulfill the role.
Personally, I'm happy to bring it up if people want me to, but I feel like we should have a vote on who we decide as HR, because I would vote for you to be HR over Jack.
I asked Nick if he recalled that Jack had already taken on the role of HR due to a situation between Nick and another coworker in January. Skip the parts with names for anonymity.
He assumed the role of HR, and then he didn't really do it.
Okay.
Right? Yeah, it's the same thing with payroll, where he got stressed and then he didn't want to do it.
Yeah, because when I brought... Oh, sorry.
Same conversations about Adventure is Nigh. Why is it taking so long? What has Jack been doing this whole time? Why isn't season 4 even started yet? And we filmed it 5 months ago. There's I think we have a lot of systemic issues to solve. I don't know if Jack is the one to solve them. I don't know if he has the organizational skills to do it. It wasn't getting done regardless, right? Because it's all, up until now, it's been kind of my job to do all that stuff. We're in this weird middle ground of a co-op where we're all supposed to be equal, right? But we also run ourselves like a corporation a little bit. And there's clashes over that right now that we're seeing, and there's been clashes about that.
As an individual who works with businesses, hearing that is actually really troubling, especially for an organization that makes as much money as they do. The talk about payroll and the fact that this HR manager was apparently doing payroll but not doing it correctly, that is a huge legal issue. The HR issue can also turn into an enormous issue if they don't take care of it correctly. I understand being a co-op is different than being a corporation, but at the same time, there are certain things that you have to have in place, that you need to have in place to cover your butt. And having certain policies written, having certain rules laid down so that everybody knows that they're supposed to follow them. You can't just, and this is the problem with certain types of people, is you can't go into a business and you can't just have everybody sit down together and say, okay, we're going to vote on the thing that's going to do the best thing, because in reality, that doesn't work. You can get away with it. I would say you could get away with it with up to 5 people. After 5 people, you start to run into a problem because you have people who aren't going to be able to be there. You have people who are going to have separate issues. You're going to have conflicts of personality. You're going to have basically what they're going through right now. As great as it would be able to run a business as you run your friendships or as you run your family, you can't. It's not possible. I'm not saying you have to have a tried and true, CEO corporate structure, but you do have to put some hard and fast rules in place, and you can't treat people in business like your friends. They can be your friends, but when you are doing business, you are doing business. And if they can't handle the fact that you're not friendly in that moment, then you can't be friends with them. It's called compartmentalization, and it can be really difficult for a lot of people to compartmentalize. That's why so many people have problems being a manager, because they want to be too friendly with their employees instead of laying down the law and keeping the business running. And maybe I'm slightly old-fashioned in that regard, in that I believe when you're at work, you work. When you're not at work, you don't work, which is funny because I do in some ways treat this like a job, but it's a much easier, more relaxed one. But I can see why they're running into problems, because if there aren't any real rules in place and everybody's just kind of been doing whatever, I can see where they would run into a lot of issues. This will be really interesting to find out what the other issues Frost has specifically. It sounds like Nick is aware of some of the issues, and he just feels the important thing is to shift the role off to somebody else. Realistically, who has the role is important. Who has the role is important because it has to be someone who can follow through on the role. But at the same time, having the rules in place is equally important, because if they don't have the defined rules of their role, then it's very difficult for them to actually perform said role. And it's more difficult for people to understand how they're supposed to treat somebody when they're performing that role. So yeah, wow. It's going to be really interesting to see where this goes. At this point, it's gone from watching a little bit of drama to watching a business falling apart. So it's the tone of it has really changed, at least for me. Do you think Frost actually has anything, or from that little clip, I could take a few different directions myself. I do have a tendency to, in an argument, want to give the, quote, opponent a little more leeway so that they can prove me wrong. I like to give people plenty of rope to hang themselves with, is what I'm saying. Hopefully YouTube doesn't take that poorly. Because there are a few things, there wasn't enough there to really form a full opinion on. I've got a couple little conjectures, obviously. The people performing the roles, they obviously don't have the people in the roles correctly. They don't have the rules defined correctly. I'm not even sure they understand the legality and that necessitates the roles. And I'm really curious about how their books look now, because if their payroll person isn't doing things correctly, they can seriously screw themselves up. Taxes and all that shit, they aren't jokes. That is something that you have to take really close accounting of. And yeah, not at all what you want to see. This could turn out to be a really interesting thing for a group that was talking about trying to fix the woes of the rest of games journalism. These problems make me really curious about the rest of the woes in games journalism. I am really curious to see what secrets we learn in the future. But let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the notifications. If you really liked it, you can feel free to share it around, and I will catch you later.